Good morning, good afternoon, and good day wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to another edition of Sales TV Live. Today, we're learning why relationship selling beats closing tactics every time. We're joined by Jason Cooper. Jason is an award winning sales trainer and relationship coach. With over 25 years' experience coaching global sales teams, Jason specializes in helping sales professionals shift their focus from short term gains to building meaningful client relationships that drive consistent performance and success. Jason, welcome.
Hey, Rob, good to see you and really appreciate you inviting me here today. I'm in the afternoon. I'm probably in the future because I'm based in Dublin, Ireland, and you're in the past, or that
That's
way,
right.
should I
That's right.
say. So
No,
you're
no, I think you've got that reversed. I'm in the future.
are you in the future? Are you sure, Rob? I think
I'm not sure of anything these
I'm
days.
a bit confused today.
Jason, let's start by having you tell us a little bit more about you, your background, and what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, Jason Cooper. I'm based in Dublin, Ireland, but as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm an Englishman. So I've been over here for about 20 years. And over that time, I've done some phenomenal things. But even before that, I got into selling in the 90s, and I started out my career selling digital photocopiers of all sorts of things. So um, the training there wasn't the best at that time, which always stuck in the back of my mind is how can I improve on that? So moved over to Ireland, found an Irish woman, settled here, and co-founded two startups. One in the fashion business with a huge amount of investment from a private company. They're pretty big in Europe, but so they invested in us and my co-founder, and also run another startup as well. But fast forward, like I've worked as a sales director, I've worked as a co-founder, I've worked in sales for a number of years, over 25 years. And about 10 years ago, I had a little bit thing going on in my head. I needed change. I need something. Maybe it was a midlife crisis. I don't know what was going on, but I needed to make a difference. I've always been curious about human behavior, always been curious about people and communication skills and being effective and making a difference. So I studied a lot, did a lot of trainer, and became a coach and certified trainer and all of that sort of stuff. But learning was still key to what I wanted. And I'm, as you can probably tell from my books behind me, I'm an avid learner. I'm always investing into myself. So about 10 years ago, I started to train people to be a little bit more effective at what they do. I've had a few incarnations since in what I'm doing, because that's growth and that's change. I've failed hundreds of times. And as Marshall Goldsmith always says, you fail forward. So keep failing forward until you learn an effective feedback to yourself. Go, well, what can I do? And how can I pivot? And how can I change? So when I say I'm the sales relationship coach, that's my tagline. But now I'm actually looking at high performance within that. And when I say high performance, I want people to perform at their best potential. And it's down for me as a facilitator, trainer, and coach, because I coach a lot of people, is I want to make sure that your intrinsic motivations are in line with what you want and where your purpose actually might be. So we look at lots of different areas of human development and behavior analysis and lots of other things based around your selling, your sales skills, but also your mind, your mindset, and the behavior and your body language. So as you build those effective relationships going forward, all of these things come in line and in congruence with what you do. So that was a long answer to a very short question. Never ask me a short question because you know you're going to get a long-winded answer from me.
All right. So let's try this then.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into it and address the biggest question I wanted to ask you today. Why is relationship building more important than focusing on the close?
Well, let's have a look at that, because when we start to look at a pyramid as such, you have things like being a vendor. Do you want to be a vendor? Do you want to be amongst everyone else? Because they call you up, but they might call two or three other people up, or if you're pitching for something, where you would like to be and where you want to be is that trusted advisor at the top of it, at the top of the pyramid. So a trusted advisor is where you work with your clients, or your clients actually come to you when you actually have any challenges or any issues that they want you to help and to control. But in order for that to happen, you need to build effective relationships with your clients. I'm not saying that you need to go down the pub with them or to a bar with them and wine and dine and all that sort of stuff. No, you just got to look into their shoes, be empathetic to really understand from everyone's point of view, and especially their point of view. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you. You've got a brand, you're a trainer, you're a coach, you got your products, your services, or whatever that you have. Great. Obviously, there's an initial connection there, a bit of curiosity, but everything is from the standpoint of the other person. And in order to be at that trusted advisor, you really need to resonate with them. You really need to connect to them at that emotional level. And in order for that to happen, certain things need to be built onto that area of trust, credibility, obviously likability. You don't want to be their best mates and all of that, but there's a certain amount of likability in there. Knowledge, expertise, the Robert Cialdini's laws of influence. So authority, which basically means you are knowledgeable about what you do. You're an expert in your field. You know your stuff really well, which builds up that credibility in the other person. But you have to really ask them lots of questions. You should be doing less talking, and they should be doing a lot more talking than you. And you need to be open and curious. I know you're smiling about that because I know that's a fundamental thing about that. But in order for that to happen, we know what we do in relationship, and also to build up, it takes around about 4 seconds for us to connect with the other person, or might be slightly less. What a lot of things are missing in a lot of these training courses and methodologies and all of that, especially when you're building up relationship, is what we don't say. If, as an example, there's that 7-38-55% rule, which basically nonverbal communication is about 55% of that. And basically what that means is you have to be completely congruent with your nonverbal communication to be effective at being likable, trustworthy, and have that immediate gut feeling, that connection with that person or persons, depending on what they are. And I think that's imperative in everything that we do, whether you're relationship selling or whatever it might be. There's lots and other things that you might be able to get from that. And I can see within the chat, in B2B, you won't break through being a trusted advisor unless you can gain their trust and respect and immediate problem solve. You're absolutely right. And I totally agree with you. You can't go around and put your arm around them and be like that. You have to work really hard. It takes an awful lot amount of effort and time to be that pinnacle at the top of that pyramid, to be that trusted advisor. There's lots of things I'm throwing out here because I'm extremely passionate about what I do. I'm extremely passionate about, there's lots of elements within being that trusted advisor, but there's also lots of other things that you should be doing in order to build that knowledge, trust, authority, likability, consistency within the other person. And that takes time. It's not made overnight. But again, that 4-second rule, that instant thing, whatever it might be, there's a direct correlation between us and the other person, whether it's that gut feel that we all get with someone or the other person that might be, whatever that might be. But you have to make sure that you display that first off in an instant. And then it's how you speak and how passionate that you are and how and what your attitude is when you are in the room or on the phone or whatever it might be.
So I want to pick up on what you were saying, that knowledge, trust, likability, and so on, that relationship. First, I wanted to acknowledge and thank Bob Britton for that comment, the one related to B2B and breaking through as a trusted advisor. And I encourage anyone else who's tuned in to join the conversation through the chat. Back to that relationship part.
Mm-hmm.
How does relationship-driven selling improve long-term business results? I need to close now. I need to hit my quarterly goal. I don't understand why it's so important to build the relationship when I really just need to build the sale.
Yep. And we've got all of that pressure and built up by lots of cortisol in the brain. And our bosses are telling us to close the sale, close the sale, close the sale. Do you want to close a good sale or a bad sale? Do you want to do a quick sell? And then maybe you haven't asked all of the right questions along a process that you've designed and developed and not get it right. For me, I think building up what it might look like to have that relationship for the first year, the second year, and the third year, to continually build up upon that, because making sure that you have the right narrative behind the stories that you tell the other person about maybe other conversations that you might have had with their previous companies that you've worked with. So I just don't believe, like I've worked in short sales cycle, and it does depend on the client. So if we are looking at B2B and we are looking at the big corporates, there is a lot of work needed to be done with the influencers, the sole decision maker, but the people who actually might be using and utilizing your technology. So when you're looking at the large scale million euro, dollar, pound deals or whatever it might be, influencing the people up the chain and making sure that those relationships are solid, to make sure that there's a buying decision all the way through and making sure that everyone is in line. So building just one relationship is good, but you might need to do multifactorial relationships with people. And I always believe that if you make sure that you get the sale right in the first place by building that relationship, stronger referrals and testimonials and referrals to other clients and businesses might be essential for you. But once you've actually built that trust, and once you've actually practiced what you preach, and once you've actually delivered that, and once you go beyond the sale, and what I mean by going beyond that is once you've actually sold it and they bought it into the process, then they sell themselves rather than you closing it. Obviously, you do your pre-closes and everything else inverted, but the most cleverest way is for them to think of the idea and them to buy into the process, as opposed to you selling it, or should I say advising.
So relationship driven selling leads to all of those things that you're talking about, referrals, etc. I'm convinced. Now my question is, how can one develop deeper and more trusting client relationships? How do you coach people through that?
How can you develop that? Well, there's loads of different things that you possibly can do. Is be a people person. Like, there's no gimmicks. There's no ways and means is high performance and relationships is a communication. It is essential. Where's our emotional intelligence here? Can you pivot? Can you have critical thinking? Can you talk to that other person like they are a person, as opposed to a number or whatever you might want to consider? So practicing just being a person, practicing that they are another person, and you're not hiding behind that email like some of the generation now are just hiding without picking up that phone and having that conversation with people. Some things that you can do is just practice your body language, practice your tone, practice how you communicate. As Gary Player always says, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And that is so true to what we do. If you don't practice, you're never going to get any good at what you do. And ironically enough, I was running a workshop this morning, and I give out a learning journal. And what I mean by a learning journal, because I want them to write down, reflect on what they've learned today. And I want them to practice. I'm not there to look over them at it. But once you engage with pen to paper, you're more likely to learn. And then it's down to that intrinsic motivation that they might have, because they want to learn, they want to grow, they want to get better at what they do. But without that, you have to have that self-determination to want to achieve. You want to connect better with the other person. And in order for that to happen, who can you practice with? You can practice with your peers. You can practice with your sales coach or your coach. And I'm just looking at sellers need to be naturally curious. Absolutely. And that can also help with even practicing questioning. Record yourself. Listen to how you sound. If you sound good, excellent. And also, it's the stories that we tell ourselves to be more confident in how we control our thoughts. Because our thoughts even can tell it's a long day for me. I've been very busy today and tripping over my words. But what we say to ourselves is incredibly imperative to what actually comes out of our mind and out of our mouths. So whatever I say, like, this is quite a cheesy cliche. If you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, then you're right. And what I always suggest to people is, whether you believe in affirmations, whether you believe in something else like that, is how you talk to yourself. Whether it's positive or negative, what's going to come out of your mouth is that answer. Because you have to make sure that whenever you do speak, it's controlled and it's utilizing positive language or linguistic language that resonates with other people. But again, it's not easy if you don't practice. If you're winging it every day and you're thinking that I'm just going to flow through life and it's going to be easy, it's not, because you have to work hard at it. But then you have to work hard on lots of different elements. And as you're doing right now, I think one of the biggest things that we can all practice, and I mean really practice, is that muscle, which is here on our head, and it's listening. If you're too eager to throw lots of questions out, which is great, and I think that's found, just shut up and be quiet and really empathetically listen. I was very close to swearing then, and I didn't swear. It's to shut the hell up, be quiet, because we speak in our head 800 words per minute, and we talk in 200 words. Some people talk a lot more than 200 words. Me at the moment, I'm probably talking about 400 words per minute. But in my head, I'm talking, and you're talking, and everyone else is talking in about 800 words per minute. So if someone's speaking at 200 words per minute, we have to listen. I have to really listen to what they're saying. Absolutely. And that's another powerful skill that we can all continue to learn, because like me, I get tinnitus. So what tinnitus is that high whistling. I have to really focus on what someone is actually saying, because words have power and meaning. But if you want to really resonate with that, and that is hugely important in building up those respectful relationships with people.
So we've talked about relationship building and how to go about that. What are the most common mistakes salespeople make when trying to build long-term relationships?
Sometimes you need space, not get too eager to want to build, and to be congruent with wanting to actually build that relationship, as opposed to using those people as a number and a pressure on you. If you are to build an effective relationship, relax the hell out. If you're too intense, the analogy is probably way back in the day when we were single and free and we were looking for a girlfriend, as an example. People can tell, or if you were looking for your girlfriend, wife, or whatever, but people can see desperation in you. And the analogy is, if you're desperate and you're trying to buy a girl a drink or whatever it might be, they can just instantly see it in your eyes. So relax the hell out. Only a conversation. It's the bigger picture that you make in your head, which can actually turn into that procrastination, but that can then turn into that jitters that you might get. So you have to learn to control yourself, especially if you want to be more effective at what it is. And I'll give you an example. My wife bought a car recently, and she went to this showroom out of somewhere, and she knew what she wanted. And the salesperson was really eager, overly eager, to bombard her with emails, bombard her with phone calls, bombard her with everything else. And she just went, oh, I got this funny feeling about this person. And again, something to do with the body language, something to do with the tone, something to do with something else that was going on. Just wasn't quite right. And she went somewhere else, and the person actually listened. The person was actually genuine. The person's genuinely into what she wanted. And after driving it and all of that, I went along and I shut up. Made a little mistake when he came in, and I'm probably diverted from the question, but he went like that to shake my hand first. Then he went, oh shit. And he went over to my wife and shook her hand first. And I just stayed out of it. But I was looking for something else. But she actually liked him. And the point of the story is he left her alone. He wasn't pressuring her. He wasn't doing anything else like that. So there is a balance there, and there is a bit of time, because I always like to say there is 12 touch points along the way. And that does include the initial conversation, the emails, the text message, the WhatsApp, or whatever. There's touch points along the way, but don't be too focused on the sale, but focused on the person, because that speaks volumes in people wanted to buy from you as opposed to being sold to.
Right. People buy from people they like. People buy from people they know, like, and trust.
That's exactly
sometimes
what's
not
written
even
down on
about
my
the product.
sheet. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it is so true. People they like, trust, and also connect with.
Absolutely. Jason, this has been great. Just like that, our time is up.
Oh
How can
no.
people learn more, and where can they get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is my number one source. I'm active all the time. I'm posting all the time on LinkedIn. My thoughts, my ideas, based on decision making and all of the elements in around the sales process, high performance. They can find me on my website, jasoncooper.io. That is IO at the end. So remember that. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I've given that a miss. and Jason A. Cooper on LinkedIn. No, I mean Instagram. And you can email me at jcooper@jasoncooper.io. I'll be honored and humbled to have a conversation.
Excellent. Thank you. We now have a newsletter. Don't miss an episode. Get show highlights, beyond the show insights, and reminders of upcoming episodes. You can scan the QR code on screen, or you can visit us at SalesTV.live and click on newsletter. This has been another edition of Sales TV Live. On behalf of the panelists and everyone here at Sales TV Live, to our guest and to our audience, thank you for being a part of today's conversation.